Senate Judiciary is now in session. We're going to start with HB 62. My friend, the good Representative Roy, is going to introduce the bill and explain it. Thank you, Representative. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Representative Terry Roy, Chairman of the House Criminal Justice Committee. I'm bringing this bill this year on the request of the Department of Defense as part of a strategic move across the country for the DOD to work on and bolster these domestic violence issues within the ranks, and to help merge the laws so that when a commander issues an order, it's beneficial to the victim to be able to use that order to get an order in the civilian world. The people that are going to speak after me will have more details on this, but the crux of it and my understanding of it is a military commander can issue a abuse protection order, but that order is only good on the base or other military U.S. property. So once that victim leaves the base, there's no longer an order protecting her or him that's enforceable by the civilian law enforcement. As there's no military housing in New Hampshire, all of our active duty and other folks who have an order like that, they're all no good once they get into the civilian world. So that victim needs to be able to go to the court and get one for it to work. And this bill will help do that. And with that, I'll leave the rest of the technical details to the people from the DOD and other people who will speak. But I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Do we have any, or are we all set? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Melissa Willett. Good afternoon, Ms. Willett. Welcome to Judiciary. How are you doing today? You may begin. Is your red light on? I can't see.
No.
Okay.
Now it is.
Now it is.
Thank
Great. Thank you.
Senator Gannon, Senator Abbas, and honorable members of the committee, the Department of Defense is grateful for the opportunity to support the policies reflected in HB 62 relative to protection of persons from domestic violence and military protective orders. My name is Melissa Willett, and I'm the New England Region Liaison for the Defense State Liaison Office, and we are a small office within the Defense Department that work on state-level policies that are currently negatively impacting our service members and their families. Our service members are central to protecting the interests of the United States, both at home and abroad, and ensuring our total national security. Through the implementation of interpersonal violence policies at the local level, states can empower victims, deter offenders, and create an environment for military families that enhance both resilience and readiness, easing the burden of having to navigate separate legal systems. By allowing the admittance of military protective orders as evidence in cases of domestic violence, we seek to ensure consistent safety across jurisdictions, which is critical for a population that relocates often. Violence and harmful behavior extend well beyond an individual victim, as the effect of violence directly impacts our service members, their families, and units to which they are assigned, and our greater national security. The Defense Department is committed to a coordinated community response regarding reports of violence, and there are several ways a state may implement statutory changes on the local level to include recognizing MPOs as evidence when seeking to obtain a temporary protection from abuse order. Additionally, costs associated with any legal proceeding can be incredibly expensive, and that burden can often be worsened if a victim is required to attend those local legal proceedings in person. Loss of work, the need for unexpected childcare, costs associated with medical expenses and therapy due to the incident, and general travel to and from court proceedings can be expensive. Authorizing victim access to post-discharge travel funds will help alleviate substantial financial burdens incurred by the victim. Simply put, these policy changes have the potential to enhance the mission readiness of our force. A service member's ability to perform hinges on stability, and unresolved threats of violence can sap their concentration, physical well-being, and trust in their surroundings, directly impacting unit cohesion and mission success. For these aforementioned reasons, we encourage the committee to support House Bill 62. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Pamela Kiley. Afternoon, Ms. Kiley. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Senator Gannon and members of the committee. As you know, my name is Pamela Keilig, and I am the Public Policy Specialist at the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. The coalition is the umbrella organization for our state's 12 community-based crisis centers that serve thousands of survivors of domestic and sexual violence every year. And I'm here in strong support of HB 62. And I don't want to I echo everything that the previous speakers have shared about the bill. We're very grateful to Representative Roy for bringing this legislation forward that can benefit members of the military in New Hampshire. The coalition worked with Melissa Willett and other members across the state on this legislation. As you heard, it does two key things. It enables victims of sexual assault or sexual harassment in the National Guard to access critical financial assistance when participating in legal proceedings. And as you heard, victims often experience significant financial burdens as a result of the abuse they experience, so this will help offset those costs. And then additionally, it makes a minor change to the domestic violence statute, RSA 173B, in order to create a definition of military protective order, just so that these orders can be recognized in civil domestic violence cases. It's really critical that victims are protected regardless of, where the abuse occurred. So we fully support this, and we hope the committee passes this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing none, thank you very much. Ryan Olis. You both want to come up together again? Sounds great. Thank you for your service, sir. Good to see you. Thanks. Thank you. Are your red lights on? Just when you're talking. So if you can identify who you both are, that would be great. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Senator and members of the committee, my name is Nicole Desolé Bixler. I'm the Deputy Adjutant General for the Department of Military Affairs and Veterans Services. I gave a copy to your committee of my testimony on February 5th to the House, and the testimony is really the same. Military protective order is a written lawful order issued by a commander that orders a service member to avoid contact with specified persons. The purpose of the military protective order is to safeguard victims, quell disturbances, and maintain good order and discipline. However, these military protective orders are neither recognized nor enforced outside of the boundaries of military installations. Our National Guardsmen do not live on our military installations. They live in the community. So what this would do, this bill would codify the military protection order and make it admissible as evidence in proceedings to obtain both protective orders and temporary protective orders on the civilian side. Additionally, this bill would allow for travel funds associated with attending any adverse administrative proceedings or New Hampshire Code of Military Justice proceedings related to sexual assault or sexual harassment to help alleviate the financial burden incurred by the victims of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And these funds would be taken out of our general fund, state funds.
Thank you.
Members of the Honorable Senate Judiciary Committee, my name is Major Ryan Ollis. I am the Associate General Counsel for the New Hampshire National Guard. I left that position at the Rockingham County Attorney's Office 2 years ago to take this position, where I served 8 years as a prosecutor. I submitted a written testimony for you to review. I just wanted to highlight a few points in the testimony. To begin with, currently military protective orders can only be enforced while the subject is on military orders, and it cannot be enforced by civilian law enforcement. As the Deputy Adjutant General noted, our members spend a majority of their time in a civilian status, making our military protective orders not safeguarding our victims. And therefore, this bill would, if passed, would help with that. Additionally, under New Hampshire revised statutes annotated 173B3, the law already arguably permits admission of military protective orders if the judge determines they are relevant and material. So this would essentially make it clear to victims and to the court that our military protective orders are admissible. The last point is that our victims often will leave the military before an adverse administrative separation hearing can occur, which makes it difficult for us to help support them in their financial burdens in traveling to and participating in at administrative separation hearings and other adverse administrative proceedings. This bill would enable the Adjutant General to provide some financial support for reasonable expenses for that travel and participation. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Sure. So you were saying that it's already admissible under the statute you mentioned. Have you found in courts they weren't accepting these things even though they should have? And this is...
Mr. Chairman, I have no instances where a court has not accepted it. It's just a matter of enabling our victim advocates to report that it will in fact be admissible versus it should be admissible.
Very good, Will, versus should. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Kevin Grady. Afternoon, Mr. Grady, good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Kevin Grady. I'm a 25-year Air Force veteran, and I'm a 28-year resident of the town of Hooksett, New Hampshire. Today, I'm representing the State Veterans Advisory Committee. Our 20 members wholeheartedly support this bill. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I did want you to know that our feelings are that being in a military family is stressful. It's stressful on everybody. And if in that family we get to a point where we need to take action to protect members of the family, then we want that as much as possible to be seamless between the military side and the civilian side. In other words, if I as a commander issue that military protective order, I want to get that to the civilian folks as quickly as possible, and I want them to be able to use it to protect the families until we can diffuse the situation. So we wholeheartedly support this legislation, and subject to your questions, I'm all set, sir.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your
Thank you, Mr.
testimony.
Chairman.
Does anyone else wish to testify on HB 62 who didn't sign in? Seeing nobody, that'll end the hearing. Motion to go into executive session? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I make a motion to pass. Do I have a second?
Which bill?
I'm sorry, 62. The one we've been doing. HB 62, second. Thank you for your second. Any discussion? Oh, I thought you were saying good bill, mate. Get a little joke there. Little play on words. Okay. I'm still not funny.
Yes,
Okay.
also, thank you,
I try once a
Representative
day,
Boyd.
I'm still not funny. All in favor, did I make a motion? We did. Ought to pass,
You did.
seconded. All in favor of the ought to pass motion?
Aye.
That's 5. Motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the consent motion?
Aye.
Okay, anyone want to take it out
I'll
particularly?
take it out.
Okay, you may. Motion to move out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
In and out. Thanks. I do, it's probably in here. I'll open HB 369, Representative Potenza. Good to see you this afternoon. How you doing? Good. I like that. That looks warm, that cape. I'll borrow it on a cold morning. Anytime you're ready after you. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, my name is Representative Kelly Potenza, Stratford District 19. I actually just passed out testimony from Attorney Stephen I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Andres, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yes, and he spent a lot of time here and of course in the House over the last 20 some odd years. And he was actually most recently a prosecutor for Merrimack County. He was very helpful in this process on the House side. So I just wanted to make sure if you guys didn't get his testimony via email, that you have it in print. So the reason why I brought forward this bill is because it affects me personally, or my family personally. I had a really hard time testifying on this in the House. So I wasn't aware, it's a loophole is really what it is. And in Coos County, the prosecutor up there, actually two prosecutors in Coos County, filled me in on this specifically. That's why I brought forward the bill. So my daughter's going to have a trial. So this won't even apply to her. It'll be in either June or July after waiting 2 years to have a trial in district court for a misdemeanor, Class A misdemeanor sexual assault. And it's already clear that if there is a conviction, then it will get appealed. And so my daughter's going to have to go through this all over again. So as you can imagine, having to deal with this entire time, waiting, all these different motions that are happening, of course, from the plaintiff. And by the time we get, which would be June or July, 3 years after the incident took place, she's going to have to go through it all again. And that means witnesses lose their memories, they're not available, all of that kind of stuff. So, and my daughter at this point doesn't even want to do any of it because there's been so much time and all of that. Now, there's been some folks that have said it would be really great. This is the first bite at the apple. If that we applied this to all Class A misdemeanor sexual assault cases for even, of course, for adults, because this is hard on any victim to be able to have to testify twice. So if you're not familiar, there's a paragraph that the attorney talks about, and it's really important. So in New Hampshire, a Class A misdemeanor charge carries the penalty of up to 12 months in the House of Corrections. Our Constitution, Part 1, Article 15, guarantees every criminal defendant who is facing incarceration a jury trial. In New Hampshire, there are 2 criminal trial courts, the Superior Court, which generally hears felony cases, and then, of course, the Circuit Court, which generally hears the misdemeanor level cases and cannot accommodate juries. So since we had the opportunity, and we did, we went directly to the Superior Court. He talks about this here. While it's possible to bring a Class A misdemeanor in Superior Court in first instance, the difficulty is that the Superior Court has the authority to dismiss. Well, even though we haven't had I'm going to do it again. I'm going to ask again for our case to be heard in Superior Court so my daughter doesn't have to go through this twice. We're very likely going to be denied again. And the worst case of all of this is the prosecutor that has been working on this case for almost 2 years, a year and a half, is now no longer the prosecutor in Coos County where this incident took place. So now we're going to have a chief of police that doesn't know anything about the case or my daughter, or to be honest, is not a lawyer and really doesn't understand law, is going to be the person that's representing my child. So there's a good chance that we would probably lose this case. So this is a no-brainer. It gives the person the choice right up front to be able to choose. So then victims don't have to be re-traumatized twice. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But it's a simple thing that really needs a fix. And I think there's other testimony that's coming behind me that will talk about it as well. But that's where we're at.
Thank you. Do you have questions, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a clarifying question. I'm reading the amended analysis on the front of this bill, and it says the defendant gets to pick.
Yes, of course.
So the defendant, the person charged,
Correct.
is going to make the decision about which one. But so I guess my my clarifying question is, how would that benefit your daughter?
Because so they get to pick in the beginning. So that means they could ask for a jury trial right off the bat. And then we don't have to worry about there being an appeal too. So if they pick that they want a jury trial, you're all set. If they pick that they want to stay in the district court, then they don't get to appeal to the superior.
I got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think I have to. Senator Abbas? Okay. Okay, you're good. Thank you very
Thank
much for your
you.
testimony. Appreciate it. Pamela Kiley.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gannon and members of the committee. My name is Pamela Kylig, and I'm the Public Policy Specialist for the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm here in support of HB 369 relative to misdemeanor sexual assault prosecutions. As you heard, this bill recognizes the impact that our judicial process can have on victims in New Hampshire. Offenders in domestic and sexual violence cases often use the court process to delay justice and further perpetuate abuse, often with the intent to wear down the victim in hopes that they'll give up. Criminal proceedings in sexual abuse cases can take years, and the more time that passes, the more the lives of victims are impacted without the ability to move forward and heal. This bill would streamline court proceedings in very specific cases involving minor survivors of sexual assault. Under current law, as you've heard, child survivors may face a second criminal trial should the first lower court decision be appealed. If signed into law, this bill would require the defendant to decide whether to proceed in circuit court with a bench trial or immediately appeal to the Superior Court for a jury trial. And passing this legislation would help improve what is already a daunting and scary court process for minor victims of sexual assault. As a state, we should be doing everything we can to support child survivors and ensure that offenders are being held accountable. The traumatic nature of sexual crimes against children can prevent victims from coming forward and disclosing their abuse for years, even decades after the abuse occurs. In fact, research has shown that the average age of disclosure is 52. Offenders may use coercion, threats, or other tactics to prevent a victim from reporting, and especially child victims often feel guilty, confused, and the fear of the loss of affection of family members. So reporting can be really, really scary and traumatizing. And so we just think this is a really common sense policy to better support child victims of sexual abuse in New Hampshire. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions at all? I'll hold mine for another time.
I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to talk later, Senator.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kylie. Is anyone else from the court or anything want to testify on this bill? Prosecutor's office, maybe? That's what we got. Only get the cards you dealt, Senator. Okay, seeing no one else testifying, we'll end the hearing. Okay. He's coming back. No, I need to read something about this. I'm confused. We'll do it Tuesday. Okay, we're going to start HB 602, requiring certain offenders to participate in a victim impact program Representative Murphy. Hello, ma'am. How you doing this afternoon? Good. I like that big thing. That's something my daughters would wear.
TJ Maxx.
I'm hoping they paid the same price you did. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the committee. For the record, I'm Representative Nancy Murphy, currently serving my third term representing the town of Merrimack, Hillsborough County District 12. I come before you this afternoon to introduce HB 602 relative to proposed public safety legislation that would add a requirement for completion of an online victim impact panel program to meet court-ordered obligations for DUI impaired driving offenses. These offenses include DUI, and as so many are, DUI convictions pled down to reckless or negligent driving. I don't think a single one of us is unaware of the challenges our law enforcement officers are facing as they try to address the very real and very problematic issue of impaired driving in New Hampshire. In 2024 alone, 135 lives were lost, many in drug or alcohol-related accidents. We can't turn on the evening news without learning of another accident or fatality with impaired drivers often behind the wheel. Or pick up a newspaper and see headlines like these: a deadly year on New Hampshire roads, safety officials seek new ways to stop dangerous driving. Protecting impaired drivers from themselves, while at the same time protecting the public at large from becoming their innocent victims, must feel like an exercise in futility most days for law enforcement. HB 602 would provide an additional program tool for New Hampshire law enforcement and the court to address DUI-related offenses, decrease offender recidivism, and save lives. The impetus for this bill came by the way of a telephone call from my local police chief, not as a request for legislation, but rather to share information in his own experience with what I'd heard for the first time described as an online victim impact panel program for DUI impaired drivers. He described the online program as different from conventional victim impact panel programs that are in-person panels, which may not always be available or accessible and can lack consistency and vary in effectiveness depending upon a variety of factors. Chief LeVake was introduced to this technology-driven online tool by his predecessor, our former Merrimack Police Chief, Denise Roy. Given their vastly superior knowledge of all things law enforcement, DUI, and victim impact panel programs in general, both Chief LeVake and former Chief Roy are here today to testify as well. If you look at the bill, you will see that HB 602 would require offenders to complete the program. This phrase is defined and described within the bill using U-Impact, an online victim impact panel program that already exists and is currently already serving DUI justice-involved individuals across the United States and even here in multiple New Hampshire towns. It's the gold standard program model. Though the U-Impact program itself is available at no cost nationwide to persons deemed indigent by the court, HB 602 was amended by the House to require that the fee for the program is to be paid for by the participant. Chief Roy is an excellent resource for specific information about the U-Impact program, the data that supports its track record of success, and current New Hampshire participation. I want to be clear, and you'll note that there's nothing in this bill that references U-Impact nor any other program by name. Rather, should HB 602 be considered favorably by the committee, any program that could meet the requirements included within the definition of a qualified online victim impact panel program would be eligible to provide those services. In addition to those testifying today, I'd like to thank the Department of Safety's Assistant Commissioner, DMV Director, Liquor Commissioner, and members of the Association of Chiefs of Police, Sheriff's Association, State Police, Judicial Branch, and New Hampshire Association of Counties, who've all met with me over the past several months and provided input to improve this bill, leading to the bill before you. As Senator Gannon well knows, some of us were appointed in March by Governor Ayotte to the newly created Governor's Special Task Force on Highway Safety. I've provided copies of that appointment letter wherein she expresses her deep concern over New Hampshire's pressing highway safety crisis and delineates the charges before the task force to address this critical issue. Evaluating existing policies and developing strategic recommendations are two of those charges. HB 602 is consistent with the governor's desire to address risk factors and propose effective strategies and actionable plans to safeguard the lives of New Hampshire citizens and visitors. I believe it's time to put another tool in our public safety toolbox. If we have the ability to positively impact outcomes for both DUI offenders and potential victims, and this comes at no cost to the state or county. I hope you'll agree that we should at least be willing to try. I'm happy to take questions, but in the interest of time, and as the chiefs will be speaking, well, it may make sense to defer some of those to them. I ask for your support of HB 602 and that you send it to the floor with an OTP recommendation so that it might make its way to the governor's desk. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Murphy. Just so I understand better, and I wrote a similar bill on something else, just so I understand your bill better. So if you want people to plead guilty, right? So is there a carrot, there's an incentive here? If they plead guilty, they get a lesser charge?
So I think that's one of the bills that we have separate from this. This is more of a, on the educational tool, and to decrease recidivism. It's not punitive. And I think when the chief describes the program, that will become more clear.
I'm good, Rep. Murphy. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Representative Murphy. Good to see you. And forgive me for not being able to find it right now, but when we're defining qualified program and it's referenced, I'm just not finding the reference for the definition of qualified program. Do we reference it as evidence-based or like?
Yep. In the bill, I think it starts at line 3, and it defines what a qualified online victim impact panel program is, what it must include.
I'm sorry, I was looking in the statute that it was referencing as well, but thank you. Okay, so that's new language.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Denise Roy? Afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Senators, first, I just want to say thank you for the important work that you do for the state of New Hampshire. Being a lifelong New Hampshire resident, I know how important it is, and I do appreciate it. I do want to extend a special thank you to Representative Murphy for recognizing that we can do more to reduce the rate of recidivism of impaired drivers in our state, and being willing to listen to our program and what experiences that we have. My name is Denise. I am a New Hampshire native who grew up in Nashua. For over 30 years, I devoted my career to serving the citizens of Merrimack as a police officer, retiring in 2000 as the chief of police, which seems like it's far away now. During my time in law enforcement, I witnessed both the incredible resilience of humanity and the devastating impacts of tragedy. While most of my experiences were rewarding, none haunts me more than those related to impaired driving. Informing a parent, a family member, or a friend that their loved one has been killed by a drunk driver is a burden that will stay with me forever. What makes it even worse is these tragedies are 100% preventable. In New Hampshire, we see approximately and only increasing 5,000 driving while intoxicated arrests each year. This number only reflects those who have been caught. We know the actual number of impaired drivers is much higher than that. As a police officer, it was certainly frustrating to go through the process of having to arrest somebody and then they are sent off to court and you really aren't aware of what happens to them afterwards. So post-arrest for an officer isn't always existent. The purpose of my presence here today is to emphasize that we can take additional steps. Across the country, many states require individuals facing impaired driving charges to attend a victim impact panel. Unfortunately, these types of panels are not widely known or utilized in New England in general. A traditional victim impact panel consists of 2 to 3 speakers who have been affected somehow by impaired driving. They share their stories about their loved ones and their personal experiences with these tragedies. I have attended and participated in victim impact panels to gain a better understanding of what an effective program looks like. Although my attendance at these victim impact panels was not mandatory, I still had an emotional response to what I experienced. I understand how a program like this can reveal the ripple effect of one's actions. An effective victim impact panel should aim to influence participants on an emotional level, changing their attitudes towards impaired driving and reducing the likelihood of reoffending. Importantly, these panels should not be designed to shame, judge, or lecture the person. Instead, they should help impaired drivers understand their ripple effects of the choices and encourage their behavioral changes. Participation in these panels is crucial. If individuals are only forced to sit and listen and not participate, they're likely to disengage. Encouraging involvement through questions, answers, and self-reflection fosters a better understanding of the consequences of their actions. Moreover, these panels must feature speakers with diverse experiences related to impaired driving. An individual involved in the justice system may not connect with a victim's story, but may find understanding in hearing someone who has faced similar struggles. Programs with varied speakers can be more relatable to the impaired drivers. Ultimately, the choice to drive impaired is just that. It's a choice. When individuals are led to a place of acceptance and responsibility, they can make safer choices, creating a positive ripple effect that extends beyond what they might see. Mandating attendance at a victim impact panel can significantly reduce the recidivism rate of impaired drivers in New Hampshire. The cost to the state is zero. However, our commitment to the citizens of this great state is invaluable. I'm not sure how we can overlook such a great tool.
Quick question for you, and I'm probably just missing it because I like all these bills that we're doing. What's the carrot to get them to take it? So we're saying if they don't take, if you plead guilty of the offense, then we want you to be required to take it. Why would we, what's the incentive to get them to plead guilty?
Well, I think the bill is actually presented in so that if you are convicted of first offense DWI, you must attend a victim impact panel. But also, if your charges are pled to reckless driving or negligent driving, then you still must do it if the charges stemmed from an impaired driving charge. So there's really no carrot and stick. It's just the trying to reduce that rate of recidivism.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you very much for your time.
Tara Diamond. Okay, I get it. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to share a little information about why we're in support of New Hampshire House Bill 602. My name is Tara Diamond. I was raised in New England, graduated public schools. Personally, I have observed how impaired driving arrests destroy families. From the parent who goes to jail, can no longer provide for their family, to the children who grow up without parents. As a former teacher, I've attended multiple funerals for students who have been the victim of an impaired driver. And as a mother, I want my children to have the safest roads possible. Across the country, over 1 million arrests related to impaired driving happen a year. Impaired driving, it's more than a simple traffic case devoid of risk. There's a ripple effect far beyond what we even see or think about. Beyond the loss of life and injury, there's also significant financial and emotional costs to consider. Repeat offenders, they use up resources within the courts that can better be utilized elsewhere. Research shows that 1/3 of the people who are arrested once for impaired driving will be repeatedly arrested for impaired driving. 30% of all traffic-related deaths are attributed to a driver who's used alcohol. So in 2022, that's 13,524 people who died, which is over 13,000 people who won't return home to their families. Evidence-based practices can reduce recidivism, and victim impact panels are one of those. Connecting people with the inevitable consequence of a choice puts a human face on the problem. Stories have the potential to inspire and motivate people to make changes, to make the right decisions. And an effective victim impact panel can take the rate of recidivism from 30% to 4%. It's a huge amount. So thank you very much for allowing me to share and discuss and answer any questions you have about a victim impact panel.
Sure. Do we have any? Seeing none, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Chief Levesque.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me speak.
Good
I'll
afternoon.
speak briefly on the matter just because I wanted to let you know that I actually was able to go through the program. I found it to be very powerful and insightful. It was unique in that it only didn't focus on short-term consequences of the offender's actions, but also long-term consequences, such as some that people don't really think about. When someone's injured, they might have a lifetime of healthcare issues that mount up to extreme costs and expenses for a victim. It really brings it home, makes it more personal, and it really makes you have self-reflection to make sure you're doing the right thing. So in my opinion, that if there's any tool that we can give to decrease recidivism, this would be a great option. And like I said, it really makes the person look inward to see how they can better their lives. I can tell you that the Chiefs Association also supports HB 602 as well. And like I said, I just wanted to let you know that how my experience was with it. And if there's any questions, I'll be sure.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We're all set.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bethany Cottrell, do you want to speak or not? I know you support. Just here in support. Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to speak on HB 602 who didn't sign up? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. Thank you. We'll just exec them all at the end when she's back.
Mr. Chairman, if you're trying to determine when to call us, if you wanted to have the chair of the committee introduce, should I speak afterwards? Since I am the prime sponsor, but it came out. If that's not what that was about, then I apologize for the interruption.
If you want to have the sponsor go first, that's fine too. Do you have the as amended version?
I will. Okay, we're doing HB 405. Representative Roy, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for hearing me today. Representative Terry Roy, Rockingham 31. I am the chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee in the House. HB 405 was brought to us by Representative Leon from Derry. You'll hear from here shortly. This is a very serious issue right now in the state with regard to human trafficking and these illicit businesses that are operating. Our law enforcement community is having a horrible, difficult time being able to interdict and take these perpetrators off of our streets and out of our businesses and out of our communities. We have large numbers of these businesses that are popping up in some of our smaller towns where you wouldn't expect them, and in our bigger cities. It's really across the state, from the seacoast to Derry to Nashua. And the problem with these businesses is they move very quickly, and there's very little way to track the people that are in them. They're often storefronts. And to get in there as a law enforcement agency, you need a probable cause to get a warrant. And without someone giving you that, it's almost impossible to interdict. So we looked at this from a holistic standpoint, and we realized that as we've done in the past with other issues, as you recall with bail, we tried to, do this, do that. We realized we need to bring all the stakeholders together, and we need a comprehensive recommendation on legislation that covers everything from the actual businesses that are being harmed, which are real legitimate massage providers, and from the towns, from the health departments, from law enforcement, from the real estate community. A lot of people need to be brought together in order to get a solid piece of legislation that's going to help stop this scourge in our society. Right now, as we speak, somewhere in our state, there's easily 50 to 100 women who are literally prisoners. They can't leave where they are. Most of them don't even really know where they are. A lot of them are from foreign countries. They've been smuggled in, and we need to find a way to stop these. And it's not just New Hampshire, it's all the way up and down the 95 corridor. Law enforcement will tell you that when they close down one shop, those people will pop up in another state or another town. So we need to find a way to come up with legislation that'll help us both interdict and get these poor women away from the people who are controlling them, at the same time be able to lock up, prosecute, and put the people behind bars for a long time who are controlling it. And it's going to take complex legislation to do it. And we've looked at other state models, and it has necessitated complex legislation. So the only way to do that correctly is to bring all the stakeholders together and get the input of everybody and do it at one time. So I would ask you to adopt it as amended, as passed the House. Everyone was brought together, including the Speaker of the House, who firmly stood behind this bill as it is amended and as you have it before you. So I would ask you to refrain from any further amendments if possible, so that we can just get it through and get this commission formed. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Representative Lamb. Whenever you're ready, just put your red, we're ready to go.
Yes, so thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this actually was my ideal timing of this. For the record, my name is Erica Leon. I represent the town of Derry, and I am the sole sponsor of this bill. I brought this bill forward because in my town of Derry, there are far too many storefronts where what's for sale isn't what the pictures plaster over all of the windows. I know that in the past, various approaches have been made. Quite a few of them are trying to fit this into a licensing circle, when in fact this is a square peg. This is an issue to view this through licensing, because there are a lot of issues that people who are not familiar with the licensing process and OPLC don't recognize and appreciate, because we're all focused on our particular areas. I know that I could not serve well in criminal justice or judiciary because that is not an area where I focus. However, I am learning more and more about licensing because I'm now the vice chair of the House ED&A committee. I would note that OPLC is a business hours operation. They are open during business hours. They are not open to do inspections at 2 or 3 in the morning when women are being moved from one location to another as they are being daisy chained up and down the East Coast, which makes licensing inspections at the facilities a challenge. Also, if somebody's willing to commit the felony of human trafficking, I'm not quite sure how a $250 licensing violation is going to be the one thing that stops them from doing this, although I do recognize there are some potential benefits from pursuing a licensing. I will note that this is in front of Senate Judiciary and not Senate Executive Departments and Administration. If this moves forward and goes from this committee straight to the full Senate, it will be interesting to note that this is a committee that is suggesting licensure, and it is not seeing the relevant committees in either body of the legislature. So I do want to say that sections 3 through 5 are very important. They are very critical. They increase the penalties for prostitution. And the fact that some of these things are misdemeanors currently is one of the reasons why I've heard that it's not pursued, because it would only be catching somebody for a misdemeanor. And if they're only caught for a misdemeanor, that is not enough of a charge in order to do what needs to be done. I will say that if that's the case and if a misdemeanor isn't enough, I'm not sure how a licensing violation will change the situation. But I do know that we need to find solutions. If you look at the bill as amended, there are quite a few members of the commission. And one of the charges is to study on line 15 of page 2, is to study regulation and licensure under RSA 328-H, which is relative to reflexologists, structural integrators, and Asian bodywork therapists, and RSA 328B, which is relative to massage therapists and massage establishments. If you review the list of people who are included on the commission, it does not include anybody from the advisory board of massage therapists or anybody from the advisory board of reflexologists, structural integrators, and Asian bodywork therapists. At minimum, I ask that you add representation of those boards of the industries which are potentially to be regulated to the commission so that their voices can also be heard. Better would be to pass whatever form you're going to early enough and refer this to Senate ED&A so that they can take a closer sorry, I thought I heard some laughter back there. To refer this to Senate ED&A so that they can take a look at the licensing aspects of this. Best, in my opinion, would be to retain sections 3 through 5, which have the important reform to the criminal penalties, and put this back to a study committee, because what I'm looking for is creative solutions. I've heard from people who have gone into these establishments and were offered services that they did not want to receive. I'm curious as to why we do have a bill which allows one-party recording in some situations. I'm curious as to why we don't do whatever is necessary to enable plainclothes officers to go in and go to some of these establishments as a client and have a camera with them. And should anything untoward happen, they have an opportunity to then have experienced it and testify to it. That would be a way to deal with a situation and pierce that veil without having to accuse an entire profession of potentially doing these things, and worse, make clients think that any massage worker will offer these services. So this is a very important, very challenging situation, but I do want to make sure that if we are going to start the freight train to regulation, we give a voice to those boards. And ultimately, once a bill leaves our hands, it's the work of the committee and those who see it. But I would ask you to recognize that if there's a bill to increase regulation and licensure on unlicensed professions and it hasn't gone through ED&A in either body, that is a problem. So thank you very much. I appreciate the whole idea. The changes to criminal statute are critical. The other part is what's in contention. Thank you. I'm going to head back to my committee.
Dave Karen?
Try it again. Good afternoon, Chairman Gann and members of the committee. My name is Dave Karen. I am the town administrator in Derry, and I'm hoping that you would pass House Bill 405 as recommended by the entire House of Representatives. The Derry Town Council has done a lot of work at the local level to address this issue. They adopted an ordinance in 2023 modeled after the town of Salem's. We go through a strict licensing procedure, and recently the council had 2 hearings which they rescinded licenses for violation of the ordinance and also of RSA 328B and H. But we do need your help. This profession is very transitory. We don't have a statewide database. And also the license reciprocity is an issue. So we're hoping with the enhanced penalties in this proposed legislation and the establishment of the commission, they'll look at those particular issues so we can attack this issue on a global basis to address the issue of human trafficking, is also to make our communities safer in the state. I submitted testimony earlier today. I won't expound anymore, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we? Yep. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Karen, for coming in and bringing your testimony. I appreciate the written testimony. Thank you so much. Is it, it's been something that Derry has been dealing with. I think that Derry was part of the 2017 trafficking bust as one of the locations. Is that correct? When the Human Trafficking Collaborative Task Force worked with the Department of Homeland Security.
It's possible. I was just starting my employ there in 2017, but we've been dealing with this issue for a number of years.
Yes. So would it be helpful to the town of Derry and your surrounding communities if we were to enact some licensure that would give health departments the ability to go into spaces that they don't have the ability to go into now, to put eyes on what we know is already happening in our communities?
Yeah, that would be very beneficial, and our police chief is here as well. We'll testify later to some additional opportunities we have to address this matter.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
George Fiol, Derry PD. Afternoon, officer. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Senator Gannon and members of the committee. My name is George Fioli. I'm the Chief of Police for the town of Derry. I've served as a police officer in Derry for the last 45 years, the last 2.5 as Chief of Police. I also serve as the Secretary for the New Hampshire Chiefs of Police Association. I appear today and to offer testimony in support of House Bill 405, establishing a commission to study human trafficking with illicit massage businesses and relative to prostitution and related offenses on behalf of my department and the New Hampshire Association of Chiefs of Police. As we've heard already, this is from Representative Chairman Roy. This is a statewide issue. This is not just a Derry issue by any means. Specifically in Derry, though, as of March of 2025, we had 6 businesses that would be characterized or could be characterized as illicit massage businesses. Some of them operate in storefronts, some of them in single-family what used to be single-family home standalone units, which are former residential structures. They're located in a business district. Some operate in office buildings. A 7th business application is currently pending before us. In the past, we've investigated complaints of prostitution at some of these locations. In fact, several weeks ago, officers from my agency made 2 prostitution-related offense arrests at one of these locations. Investigation and enforcement activities remain an ongoing challenge for my agency and law enforcement agencies around the state. A lot of them don't have the resources that Derry, as the 4th largest community, has to devote to this issue.
One of the businesses was recently closed in Derry after its proprietor was found to have been convicted of prostitution-related offenses in Delaware and failed to disclose that information as required at the time of application in Derry. The very next day, a new business owner appeared at our town offices to request to reopen that business. That suggests a much larger level of organization and control than just a business-to-business transfer. Please make no mistake, these businesses are quite likely criminal syndicate operations. We need House Bill 405 to pass into law so that we in New Hampshire can begin to get a handle on the proliferation of these businesses. In closing, I ask that you find House Bill 405 ought to pass so that all stakeholders can work together to solve this problem in the future. Thank you for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for your testimony. Seeing no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, somebody named David. It looks like we're in deliberation over what your last name is. Looks like MC McGurmick. How do you say it? I'm sorry. Oh, I would have said that. That would have been my first guess, and then everyone's like, oh. Okay, that's okay. Good to see you.
My name is David McCormick. I was born and raised. My name's Dave McCormick. I was born and raised in New Hampshire. After 32 years, in 2019, I retired from the New Hampshire State Police as a lieutenant. I was in charge of the intelligence unit, the Information Analysis Center. I was the director. That's where all the intel comes into the state from federal government, from sources within the state as well. Upon retiring a month later, I went to work for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. I am assigned as a task force officer on a human trafficking task force. I'm glad that the Derry chief, I followed him because we made an arrest with them a few weeks ago. And I will add that that business was open the very next day, I believe. Just a bump in the road. I'm in support of the bill, obviously, because it gives us tools, even though I have the federal resources to do federal charges. I also am a state trooper. I'm assigned to state police as well, so I can do state charges as well. But to have it be a misdemeanor offense to facilitate prostitution, to me, is unacceptable. The state of Massachusetts realized that issue, and they made their statute, I believe, a felony, which caused some of those businesses to move to New Hampshire, which they routinely do. I can tell you from a Homeland Security standpoint, the Chinese nationals that are smuggled into the U.S., they're charged upwards of $30,000 to get here by a coyote. Once they arrive, they're expected to pay. A lot of them do not have the money to pay, so this is where it starts. You will perform sex acts at our shops. You have no choice. And they get trafficked, and that continues until someone, in my opinion, law enforcement steps in and pulls them out of that situation. So I'm in support. I think that if the Senate, was to pass the bill and make it a felony, it would at least give us an opportunity to address the owners of the establishments for facilitating the prostitution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sunder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Lieutenant McCormick, for your work, and appreciate your work with the Human Trafficking Collaborative Task Force and Homeland Security. In your experience, when you have made arrests and brought down some illicit massage parlors where human trafficking is occurring, have you heard from survivors in those spaces that even though complaints may have been made in the past, they are reluctant to come forward because they are indentured to the owners of the parlors or their food or shelter is dependent upon their working in those places?
No. And unfortunately for us, when we walk into the business, and it happened in Derry, the surveillance camera right on you as you come in. The gangs in New York City, Flushing, New York, that are running these operations know that we walked in. As soon as we leave, those girls are rotated out. And I would venture to say the person we charged in the Derry case probably will not show up because they have been rotated probably back to New York or down the southern coast. Unfortunately, that's our goal, is to get the people out and have them explain what you said as far as the situation they're in, but we don't get to that. So, unfortunately.
May I follow up? Thank you. So if this bill were to pass and there would be an opportunity to have a commission where information that you've just shared could be shared with a commission to create opportunities for legislation, would that be beneficial to the work that you do in Homeland Security with relation to human trafficking?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to testify. My name is Charles Foote. I'm a representative from Derry, New Hampshire, represent Rockingham 13. I'm currently also a town council chairman. I've been working with our economic development director for the last 7 years to try to combat this issue that we have before us with this illicit massage parlors. As you heard in previous testimony, they close shop today, someone tomorrow comes in and fills that void. So this is a major issue that is not unique to Derry or Londonderry or New Hampshire or just the United States. This is an international human trafficking issue that we need to have more teeth here in the Granite State to prosecute those people who are involved in this, many of which are victims, but we just need the opportunity to have some teeth in the game to try to elicit this. In Derry, we range anywhere from 6 to 12 businesses at a time. They fluctuate. And again, there's nothing that stops them. A lot of times it's the same principal players just moving around, different locations, different owners, or they'll use addresses from another massage parlor in another town. So there's no oversight. Here in New Hampshire, we're desperately lacking that oversight of these spot type businesses. And as mentioned previously by the previous speakers, being a misdemeanor, there's really nothing that intimidates them from redoing this. So we close shop in New Hampshire. They'll either, in Derry, they'll either go to the next community, they'll go to the next state. A quick Google search on this, you can see the human trafficking issues just in the last few weeks. You know, I know Maryland's had some, there's been some out in Alabama and Tennessee, and you can see how much of a prevalent issue this is. So I respectfully ask that you concur with this House Bill 405 as amended and create this commission and help us try to fix this problem. Thank you.
Senator Ramos, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming back up. I just was going through some of the Senate bills we passed, and I believe it's Senate Bill 267 that's in the Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee that's scheduled for an executive session, I believe, next week. Would amend the same RSA as some as this bill would, and I'm referencing any conflicts, but I would just ask if it's possible your committee could do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go through it and make sure that it all lines up and syncs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Jody Nelson. Lobsters, I'm thinking of summer and eating a lobster now. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Jody Nelson, Rocky M13, representing Derry. I just wanted to mention a few things to you. I know that you've heard a lot of testimony, but this is an issue that's deeply affecting the residents of Derry. You know, lots of times if I'm at a baseball game of my sons, I was just at a Boys and Girls Club auction on Saturday, and people are really concerned about this. People are always coming up to me and asking, what can you do? You know, it's a really big concern from our constituents about the human trafficking aspect that's happening in these establishments right under our noses. It's very disturbing to our constituents. These establishments also, also concerning to them is the criminal element they know is there in organizing these establishments. They are located within close proximity to schools, right next door to the culinary playground, which teaches children cooking classes, etc. So, in addition to you know, being detrimental to businesses that are adjoining, it's also really just a huge concern with our constituents. I'm really thankful for Representative Leon for coming forth with this bill, and I'm very, very thankful to Chairman Roy and Vice Chair Rhodes and members of the committee. They worked really hard on this amendment that we passed through the House. I fully support as amended, because I think the commission, with all the appropriate stakeholders coming together, I think we'll be able to come up with solutions that we can use to help this situation. Lastly, I wanted to let you know that over the past few years, I've monitored a message board in a interesting website where customers of these establishments are very bold and freely discuss the names of the women who are providing these services, where they are located, how much they charge for each particular service that they provide, where they've been moved to. And also there is mention a lot of times about the fact that these women live there and can't leave. In fact, sometimes people say, oh, I know so-and-so who does such and she's great in that way, can't leave, so I bring her dinner. Lastly, I wanted to tell you that in my monitoring of these chats, I feel like it's a very serious public health issue. There are not safe sex practices being practiced in these establishments, and I know for certain that condoms are not allowed in many of them. In the event that they're raided, they do not want to have the reality of what these establishments really are as evidence to police. So that's all I wanted to add, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Representative Rhodes, come on down. Do you want to ask me about that? You can ask. You can ask. Don't be shy. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I am Representative Jennifer Rhodes. I represent Cheshire County District 17, which is Winchester, Richmond, Swansea, Troy, and Fitzwilliam. And I also serve as the Vice Chairwoman of the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee with Representative Roy. So you heard a lot of discussion today about an amendment that is in front of you. And the bill that originally came to our committee was a study committee. And that day that that bill was introduced, we heard from pretty much everybody that you heard from today that asked us to please not pass a study committee. They told us that they did not see the point of it, that they feel that this study has been has been studied by all of the players that have a stake in this game. And they asked us to please get everybody at the same table at the same time so we could take a comprehensive look at what really needed to be done. This particular term, as Senator Abbas mentioned, there's at least, I think, 3, if not 4 bills that are coming in front of our committee that you guys already heard, not to mention the different committees throughout the House and the Senate. So versus us looking at this and trying to do a bunch of patchwork and try to fix a bunch of leaks, we decided to have everybody at the same table at the same time, working towards a collective goal, knowing what the other person was doing, instead of having everybody do it separately. At the end of the day, our goal is to get these people out of a lifetime of sexual slavery. There have been many attempts that have failed. My first term, I served on 2 committees. I served on the Criminal Justice Committee, and I also served as the Vice Chairman of the Executive Department's Administrative Committee. Representative Leon is right. There have been attempts that have been killed by the committee. If that is going to be the solution at the end of the day, I can guarantee you it's not the only solution. It would be one tool in the toolbox that our law enforcement are begging us to do. Additionally, when Massachusetts enhanced their penalty, just as you've heard, people have come over to this state. That is why we tried to make it tougher to live here and put these people in a lifetime of sexual slavery. You also heard mention about people that may not be on this commission. This is not about the legitimate businesses. This is about the illicit businesses that are hiding behind legitimate businesses. We can invite anybody we want to come sit and talk to us at this table. They don't have to be written into this particular commission. We want to hear from everybody. I'm begging you to pass this bill as amended. The reason I had asked my chairman 3 times to not hold the executive session because the amendment wasn't ready. It was incredibly difficult. I think OLS, we had to go back to the drawing board, I think 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. There was a lot of work put into this. There was a lot of emotion put into this. I'm just asking you to do what needs to be done so we can, if I may. We also asked for an interim report with this commission so that if we can bring back legislation, we all come back in January, we'll have the opportunity to do that. That's also something else that's just kind of in the weeds in this particular legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions? Nope. We're good. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rebecca Geary. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. My name is Rebecca Cleary. I'm an attorney and an expert on prostitution and trafficking law and policy on the state level, focused specifically on the Northeast New England, New York. I think that the powerful testimony we've heard so far is a great indication that a study is needed. I have a concern that the later sections, section 3 onward of this bill, are kind of putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. The study commission does include the study of increasing penalties and looking into the benefits of changing the existing law. And then after that, it does change the existing law. What it would do is make it a felony to have prostitution happening in a place that you control. That's not limited to massage parlors. It's a general law. And I've heard a lot of concerns about human trafficking being under prosecuted. I do not believe, without studying it further, that increasing penalties is a thing that should be done at this moment because there are already robust anti-trafficking laws. There's also anti-coercion laws within the prostitution laws that are felonies. And then separate from that, you have the anti-trafficking law where trafficking is point blank a class A felony in every case. So that already exists. And so the fact that we already have in this state robust anti-coercion and robust anti-trafficking laws, and yet there seems to be a significant concern of a proliferation of trafficking. I'm strongly in support of a study to figure out how those laws can be used to prosecute cases of trafficking and ensure that those are dealt with appropriately. My concern also with that Section 3 is because it is so broad, it could apply to situations and would apply to situations outside of massage parlors and would extend to things like where you have consensual adult prostitution happening in someone's own home. They control that space. Is that a felony? Under that law, it would be a felony. Or a landlord who knew it was happening, that would be a felony. And that would create a pretty extreme cost to the state and also a cost to, in my opinion, liberty and privacy because it's not tailored to the concern that's being laid out in this study commission. And like I mentioned before, in cases of trafficking, the laws in the state are incredible. They're incredibly robust. The trafficking law has well enumerated ways that trafficking occurs, and that the prostitution law is very clear that where prostitution occurs and it's involving a minor or there's coercion happening, that is already a felony. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. You have a legal background and you've been, if I understood you correctly, been involved in drafting policy in the past on this subject matter?
Yeah, I'm a policy analyst, so I just study the laws in every state, and I also have been involved in just drafting and also just consulting and looking at things. And prior to that, some direct services with survivors.
So what have you seen the other states do to perhaps address what the issues raised in the bill before us today?
There was a study commission that occurred in Rhode Island a few years ago, and the report came out last year. And so now the recommendations that were made are being considered. I think what's happening here is most of the states in the Northeast have good, robust trafficking laws. I think my concern is that it seems that these robust trafficking laws are not being used to prosecute and I'm not sure what the disconnect is there. And so I think that there's study commissions there's one, a bill that's pending in Massachusetts as well. That's similarly going to just take a look at the laws and make sure that needs are being addressed. We haven't seen any significant prostitution penalty increases in New England or New York. There, I believe, have been a few in other regions of the country, but in this area, there have not been. And also, I have not ever seen a penalty increase of this nature, where it's referring to where it's blanket if someone is in control of a place where prostitution is happening.
Do you know what the study commission recommended in Rhode Island?
In Rhode Island, it was not tailored to massage parlors, and there was a number of recommendations. They'd recommended in Immunityville, which we already have here. They'd also recommended, one of the recommendations was also to look at the health and safety of massage workers. Again, that report just kind of came out, the recommendations of the commission, and so we're kind of in the immediate next stages of the legislature deciding how to incorporate those recommendations.
Thank you.
Senator Oshel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Cleary, for taking my question. Just to level set here, your work is actually in decriminalizing prostitution, isn't that? That's correct, right? That's what you do.
I've worked on decriminalization bills, yes, but the breadth of that is much more expansive. My expertise is on anywhere that prostitution and trafficking law touches. So discussing things like criminal immunity, like what we have in I can't remember the subsection, but there is a criminal immunity where people report sexual assault law. Here, things like that regionally. protections against discrimination in the healthcare setting, safety for folks who are interacting with law enforcement. The ultimate scope of my work is addressing where criminalization comes up against health and safety concerns, really, in any capacity. And that also includes an extensive amount of anti-trafficking legislation and research.
Okay, but may I follow up?
Yep.
But your organization is decriminalize sex work, correct?
Yes.
Right, so, which is decriminalizing prostitution.
That is one of the ultimate goals, because it is my belief that but that's not that's not the question at hand. And my day-to-day work is much more related to looking at the laws generally and health and safety consequences.
That was my question, though. Thanks.
Seeing no other questions, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is it Tricia Nualu? Okay. Welcome, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tricia Navalu. I'm a certified sex educator, intimacy coordinator, founder of Erotic Laborers Alliance of New England. I myself have had several studios here in New Hampshire. I was a resident of Stratham for quite some time, and I voted for you twice.
Thanks.
Thank you. I had a few different studios as I was an adult entertainment content creator. Erotic Laborers Alliance of New England, also known as ELA1, is part of the community being discussed here. One example is a community member named Vicky. Vicky is a middle-aged Asian woman who provides therapeutic and erotic massage services. I first met Vicky during 2020 when we were dropping off care packages for our community. We would provide safer sex supplies, although most massage workers were already well stocked. I caught up with my friend Vicky yesterday. Vicky could easily be arrested and imprisoned under this law. For example, if she were to rent a hotel suite for her and her friend to do an erotic massage, 2 consenting adults, and there's a police raid, Vicky could end up going to prison for being the person who rented the hotel room. And none of this involves human trafficking. This is commercial sexual activity between 2 consensual adults. Whatever your feelings are about erotic massage, I think we can all agree that all women trying to earn a living and care for their family should not go to prison for an erotic exchange concerning consenting adults. The first part of this bill has to do with the study commission. It seems clear that this is needed. However, I noticed that no one from the local community is included in the study commission. We have been included. Erotic Laborers Alliance has been included in other study commissions. And after hearing previous testimony to include stakeholders, I would have to insist that people whose lives who are directly impacted now should be included. I would even volunteer Erotic Laborers Alliance to be involved. The added part of this bill, the increased penalty, it seems premature. It seems to me that it will have unintended consequences that will ruin lives for consenting adults, and it has nothing to do with human trafficking. My recommendation is to let the study commission continue, but truly include all stakeholders with some alterations, and let's see what we learn. Thank you. I'm open to any questions.
Sure. Thank you for your testimony. Senator Abbas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I guess from an enforcement aspect, how would there be a distinction at the enforcement level between people who are voluntarily in this business where it's voluntary versus the involuntary situations that involve human trafficking? I mean, from an investigative perspective, it's really hard to identify that. So how would you, I guess, what would you propose we would do otherwise?
I understand. That's what we're trying to do also. We're trying to make clear delineation what is volunteer and what is coerced, and not have consensual adults engaging in commercial sexual activity locked in with trafficking victims. The people that actually have agency to make their own choices or open up an adult content entertainment type studio here in New Hampshire, which is perfectly legal since 2008, have them not be confused with traffickers or someone who's being forced to be there.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question? I mean, there are ways, we can address. When we visit massage parlors, there are certain questions that we ask. So we can identify who's being possibly coerced to be there or forced, and those who are trying just to earn a living. So we do have a checklist that we give our board members and our community outreach members to ask. I could email that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. So you mentioned at the beginning of your testimony that that you recognize a differentiation between making content, right? So making content for media platforms and prostitution, right? And in New Hampshire, I think I heard in your testimony recognition that making content is not problematic. But I want to make sure that the Erotic Labor Alliance of New England, when you're engaging, I think you just mentioned to Senator Abbas that you do outreach.
Correct.
Yeah, are you letting people know when you're doing this outreach that what they're engaged in is actually illegal in the state of New Hampshire? It's not everywhere else, but it is here.
Yes, actually, we do identify all sex workers and we provide resources to all sex workers, being exotic dancers, massage therapists, sex workers who engage in prostitution, full service, people who are making pornography. We, under our umbrella and our resources, we cater to all sex workers, and sex workers are very aware of whether their work is legal or not. Usually, we don't have to inform them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Pam, Kylie, you still here, Pam? There you are. Sure is.
Good afternoon again. My name is still Pamela Kylig, and I'm still the Public Policy Specialist at the Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm joined here with my colleague Meg Chant, who is a Program Director at our organization and also the Director of the Human Trafficking Collaborative Task Force. We know it's been a long afternoon, but we just have a few things that we want to highlight, if that's all right. I think first and foremost, we are in full support of HB 405 as amended by the House. We disagree with the prime sponsor. We think that the time is really now. This has been an identified need for years, and this bill is finally allowing us to take some immediate action and to bring stakeholders together. We hear repeatedly, and as you've heard today as well from human trafficking experts, that we do need to enhance the penalty because our neighboring state has, and it's right now, with the current state of things, New Hampshire is currently a safe haven for traffickers. And we need to de-incentivize traffickers from coming to New Hampshire. I really appreciate everyone who came here today in support of the bill. And we have a really important opportunity here to take some immediate action. So I think I'll turn it over to Meg, who can cover some highlights around why this is really important and just give you some background on human trafficking in New Hampshire.
Good afternoon. Thank you. For the record, my name is Meg Chant, and like Pamela, I will try to be brief. In my role at the coalition, like Pamela said, I serve as the director of the New Hampshire Human Trafficking Collaborative Task Force, which is a multidisciplinary partnership between law enforcement agencies, prosecutors, healthcare professionals, children's services, victim services, and community partners throughout the state. For several years, the task force has been leading an effort to combat these illicit massage businesses. The reality is that there are many types of trafficking happening here in New Hampshire. This is just one of them, but it has been a focus because, like you've heard from experts already, of the proliferation of it here. The Polaris Project, which operates the National Human Trafficking Hotline, created that term, illicit massage business, to describe this very specific type of exploitative, organized, commercial front trafficking venue that they saw implicated over and over in cases reported to the National Hotline. We want to be really clear that this term does not encompass legal therapeutic massage businesses, nor does it include non-coercive sex work that may incorporate massage. And I want to be clear that we're not trying to implicate legitimate massage therapists here as perpetrators. Massage therapists actually, in fact, are experiencing sexual harassment because of the existence of IMBs in our state. The Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards recognized that human trafficking was pervasive within their industry, and they established a human trafficking task force as well to examine the occurrence of human trafficking, and found that the massage profession has an unfortunate tie to these businesses. The most concerning impact that human trafficking has on the massage profession is that it endangers both the therapists and the public. Massage therapists frequently experience sexual harassment from clients who are seeking illicit services, with many facing assault, threats, and more subtle forms of intimidation. Additionally, the economic and societal costs of trafficking are significant for professionals and consumers. Not only does the cost of doing business rise due to increased exposure to safety risks and security hazards, but the presumption that illicit activity is prevalent negatively affects those legitimate professionals, the schools and establishments that are around them, like Representative Nelson mentioned. So HB 405 is an essential next step to ensure that our communities are safeguarded against this type of horrific exploitation and that these fraudulent businesses are not allowed to operate in New Hampshire. I also want to note that these investigations are very complex. While we are aware that these businesses are in our state, it's very difficult to initiate a human trafficking investigation in these situations. And when an investigation does take place, it can take years before an arrest can actually be made. Human trafficking prosecution relies heavily on victim input. You heard from Lieutenant McCormick, Task Force Officer McCormick, that it's really difficult to even get access to these victims in these situations, and to then have them in a place where they feel safe and stable and can participate is a very lengthy and complicated process. So it's nearly impossible to gather the information that we need to bring a case. Already covered that. These businesses operate around the state. You've heard a lot about that from some of the local experts. And also that traffickers are telling their victims that seeking services or reporting to law enforcement could get them prosecuted for engaging in prostitution, because as we know, it is illegal in our state. So that's another way that that power and control is maintained in those situations. They make it clear that the only path to safety, especially if they owe money to their trafficker, is via compliance with their demands and with their requirements.
Yeah, so I think just in conclusion, we've already as a state put significant resources and expertise into understanding these issues. We have a huge opportunity here to take action against these egregious establishments. In our testimony, I've also included 2 recent news articles of things that happened in the last 2 weeks related to this issue, just to highlight for you how pervasive and prevalent it is. So on that note, we hope that you support HB 405, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you both. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question, and I'll direct it to either one of you. Since Massachusetts changed its penalty, it sounds like they enhanced the penalty. Have you seen an increase in human trafficking? And just can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, and again, Task Force Officer McCormick could speak to that more, but he and his partner on the task force, Officer Millar, have both said that they've seen that difference from that legislation being changed in Massachusetts. And I think part of it is because these businesses are so easy to move around. You just pick up shop and move it.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question, directing my question to Meg, but Pamela, it's to either. So we just heard from my colleague about increases in penalties in Massachusetts, but isn't it true that Massachusetts also requires not just massage therapists to be licensed like we do, but they also require establishments to also be licensed, which is kind of what we're looking for? right?
Yeah, I'm going to actually pass it back to Pamela.
I believe so. I'm happy to double check that for you. National best practice is to license these establishments, and in conversations around this topic and addressing both illicit massage businesses and stopping human trafficking, that is one of the number one recommendations. So that is definitely something I just wanted to highlight. It is a best practice. We can definitely double check about that, but I believe that's the case.
Thank you.
Your testimony.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your time this afternoon.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 405 who didn't have an opportunity? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the hearing. Thank you all. I'm going to have a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Am I impeding on your?
No, you just now.
I make a motion that we go into executive session. All in favor of the executive session motion? Aye. Okay.
Red lights, everyone.
We're gonna
red
start with
lights.
4:05.
4:05. Oh, we just.
So I'm making a motion of ought to pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion? We're all set?
All set.
Okay, all in favor of the ought to pass motion?
Aye.
Okay, motion for consent, yes.
So moved.
Move consent. Oh, you moved consent?
We're getting there. Yes, we have. All in favor of the consent motion?
Aye.
Deb, do you want to take this up?
Sure.
There you go.
I would be delighted.
Okay, we're moving on to 6:02. I'm making a motion of ought to pass on 6:02. Do I have a second?
6:02.
Second.
Got it today,
Thank
though?
you.
Yes. Yes. Got it.
I'm sorry, Deb.
No, I'm just trying to get my.
So 6:02, we have ought to pass in second. Do we have any discussion?
Can you slow down?
Sure.
What? Me.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
So this is I just want to say that this is a great idea, and also I appreciate, because we had heard a bill prior where it names a specific program, and this, like, to not name a program, but to know is a resource, like, we're not looking for something that might not exist, like, there is something. I really appreciated that. And, you know, my district has the spate of 95 that is just riddled with drunk drivers. So I really appreciate this coming forward.
Go ahead, Senator Evans.
Mr. Chairman, you asked a question of someone about what's the carrot being given.
Yes, sir. I did.
Well, to steal the thunder, the carrot is that the offense is being pled down from drunk driving to, reckless or negligent operation.
Yep.
But that then results in perhaps the penalty being reduced, but also some of the collateral fines and programs, I don't think are necessarily up to speed with what was actually happening. So I think this brings it up to speed to where it needs to be.
Very good. I appreciate
It makes it a
that.
much better carrot.
Very good. I like carrots and sticks. Yes.
Thank you. I will echo what my colleagues have said and appreciate the folks that brought an innovative program to our attention so we can finally make some progress.
Okay, all in favor of the ought to pass motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move
Senator-
consent?
I'll move consent. Second. All in favor of the consent motion?
I
Senator Reardon, you want to take that up?
would love to. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks. That's what we're doing for today. Senator Judiciary. I was just going to do that.
Can we have a bunch of them?
No, we're going to
No.
do this. Thank you for your time. Judiciary. Yeah, motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Opposed? Okay. All in favor then. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Abbas. No, you almost did. Okay. Thank you for your patience today, everyone.